Hey y'all, so today is Monday, November the 9th, and I'm going to talk to you today about a movie I watched not this past weekend, but last weekend, which would have been Halloween weekend. It had to be, I want to say, Halloween was Saturday, October 31st, so I think I watched this on Sunday, November 1st, which I would have made it a week ago today. Um, the movie was called Spell. And if you are planning on watching this movie, don't watch this video because I'm going to be talking about it and I'm going to try not to give away too many spoilers. But this is live. I'm not really prepared, so I don't know exactly what I'm going to say here. Um, so, the premise of the movie is there is this gorgeous black man. As a teenager, he grew up in the Appalachians. And I don't think it specifically says where, but I want to say they do say Kentucky. And he feels like where he lives, the people are superstitious and backwater, and his father is abusive, so he runs away. And he makes it somewhere up north. I'm assuming somewhere like Connecticut or New York or Maryland, somewhere up that way. And it doesn't say exactly how, but he works hard. He becomes a lawyer. He becomes a rich and successful lawyer. Um, And in the beginning of the film, he goes to work, and we find out that his father has died. And when he tells his wife and children, he has two children, which are high school age. Um, they don't really know their grandfather. They've never met him. I guess the dad never really talked about him, and the father doesn't really want anything to do with his father who's died. But his wife tells him that they have to return to his home and pay their final respects. Uh, and so they're rich. Did I mention they were rich? They own a small jet plane big enough for four people, and so and the lawyer is also happens to be a pilot. So they get in the plane and they fly from wherever they live. I don't think it ever says down to the Appalachians, and in the plane they start to have an argument about their two different parenting styles. The mother is more of a rigid disciplinarian, and the father is more of a letting things slide, more permissive. And I think that goes to his upbringing and how he was abused. And I don't think he really wants to hurt his children in any way. And so he's not really much of a disciplinarian. A storm comes up, the plane goes down. The lawyer wakes up in the attic of a farmhouse. And naturally, he wants to know, how did I get here? Where's my family? And a woman comes into the attic room where he's at, and she is played by Loretta Devine, a great actress. And I want to say her character's name is Miss Eloise. I think that's it. And she basically tells him, I don't know nothing about your family. All I know is we found you in your plane. We brought you back here, and we're gonna, nurse you back to health. And he's excited. He wants to know about his family, and he says, "Well, can I get a phone? I need to get to a hospital." And she tells him there's no phones there, and the nearest hospital is 50 miles away. So basically, he's forced to stay there to recuperate. And during this conversation, Miss Eloise introduces herself as a root worker. And she says she's going to fix him up, heal him up. Well, he gets up really, really excited. Like, I don't believe in all this. And bing, bang, boom. And she reaches into her apron, pulls out a powder, blows it in his face, and it knocks him out. So she goes downstairs, and there's a little montage of her with one of those big ceramic mixing bowls. I recognized it right away. We had one like it growing up. I know my grandfather used to make potato salad in this big bowl. If y'all see it, y'all will know. Somebody knew somebody had this big bowl. That was a little bit of nostalgia for me. She's got some dirt in this big bowl, and it shows her pouring a mason jar of blood in it, and she's mixing some other stuff in it. I think I saw a ball of yarn sitting on her table. It could have been a jack ball. I'm not sure. Um, and then it shows her shaping something with her hands, and then she puts it in the oven, and then when she brings it out, she shows it to her. I don't know if it's her boyfriend or just companion or whatever, but there's an older man. I forget his name, and he acts sort of like a helper to her throughout the movie, like an assistant. Uh, and again, I don't know if it's her brother. I don't know if it's her husband. I don't know. But she shows it to him, and it's a within the context of the movie, she calls it a boogity doll, and uh, it's a very crude looking thing. It stands up on its own, and she takes this doll and shows it to the man, and tells him this is his boogity doll, and she's gonna put it up in the window where it can watch for help, and it's gonna help him get better. And within the context of the movie, what happens to the doll happens to the person, and it's unlike in real life. It's instantaneous. So when the man starts to suspect that they're not really interested in helping him, that he's trapped there and he has to get out, he climbs through a window. It's a dark, rainy night. He climbs through a window in the attic because the door's locked, and he crawls across the roof and he gets over onto a barn, and there's a hole in the barn about the size of a basketball, and he looks down through that hole, and he sees Miss Eloise is doing almost like a revival or a healing ceremony, and she's got all these people there, and she's got all their boogities, because apparently she's got a boogity doll for everybody. And so he watches her use the boogity dolls to help heal these people. So the first person comes up is a woman. She don't have a tongue, or she's unable to speak. And so Miss Eloise has her assistant grab this cat and cut its tongue out. And then she takes the tongue and attaches it to the mouth of that woman's boogity doll. And suddenly the woman can talk. And then there's another scene where there's a man, he's lost his eyes for some reason. He takes off his sunglasses, and there's just holes where his eyes should be. And so she takes the eyes of a goat and puts it on his boogity doll, and he can see again. And that's where I'm going to end it as far as talking about the movie. But again, within the context of the movie, whatever happens to the doll happens to the person, and it's instantaneous. Oh, there's one more thing I wanted to say. At one point, Miss Eloise begins to believe that he's getting out somehow, and he's trying to escape. So she takes his doll, snatches it out of the window, and does sort of a motion like this with it, and he goes flying across the room. Then she takes the doll and binds it with thread and pulls out the tongue. So suddenly he's laying on his bed like this, can't move, and he can't talk. So that incapacitates him. So that's where I'm gonna end it now. You can watch the movie to find out how it ends. I will say this: I do feel like this movie could be set in the same universe as The Skeleton Key, and it could be something of a spiritual sequel to The Skeleton Key. But I'll go ahead and tell you now, there's no body switching like in the first movie. That doesn't really come up. That's not a part of the plot. So I wanted to talk to you about doll babies and voodoo dolls in my personal practice. And so when I was first learning about witchcraft, I worked with dolls a lot. And then later I got more into candles. But if I had something to do, I would do it with a doll. And one of the first things I actually learned from another horror movie that I expanded on when I became more educated in witchcraft. In the original Chucky movie, which I believe came out in 1988, there's a scene in that movie where Chucky, as a doll, goes to find the man who taught him voodoo, and apparently that man taught him that you make a doll of yourself and you put it somewhere safe, and you keep that doll safe and it'll keep you safe. And there's a scene where he finds that man's doll and uses it as leverage to get information out of him, and then he eventually kills the man. I do want to show y'all some of the dolls I have as I'm speaking. So this right here, in case you don't know, is the president formerly known as Donald Trump. I got him bound and gagged here. He's going to be going away soon. Who is that? Here's another doll that I made. This is probably one of the better dolls that I've ever made. This is a doll. I'm really happy with how this one came out when I made it. And then I have this one. This is an older doll. I thought it came out kind of ugly, but the person it represents, it fits them. That's my little pinhead doll. And then I have another one here I want to show you. Oop. This is, oh, I love the way this one smells. This is another doll that I've made. This is one of my dolls. So, with that movie I was telling you about, you know, it said keep your doll safe and it will keep you safe. And then later I learned this spell from a witch friend of mine. What you do is you take yourself a handkerchief, get you a new handkerchief, and you take this handkerchief and you soak it in cool water. And when I say cool water, I'm not talking about the cologne, I'm talking about actual water that is cool. And you put salt in that water and you let this handkerchief soak up that salted water, and then you hang it, don't wring it out, but you just hang it up to dry, like maybe on your shower curtain or something, or maybe if you have a clothesline outside in the fresh air and sunshine. And when this handkerchief dries, it'll retain that salt from that water, and we know salt is very protective. And then you take your little doll baby and you wrap it up in that dried, clean handkerchief that it's absorbed that salt, right? And you put it in a safe place where it's going to be comfortable. And so that salt will act as a shield around you. And some people say that's the white light of protection. Now, you can go another step with this spell, and you can get you a nice little box, you know, something like this. Put your doll in it. And what you want to do is put other things in this box that you want to attract in your life or the life of the person you're making it for. So this one's not mine. None of these dolls are me. I have one put away in a little box all comfortable. And in my little box, I have $100 bill because I want money. I want to be prosperous. I have a high John Root for personal power and strength. I have a deck of cards where all the cards have a picture of a naked man on it. And so I took out several of those cards out of that deck that I really like, because some of them's ugly. I took out the really cute ones and I put in that box because I want to be surrounded by men. I want, you know, men friends. I want male attention. And what else did I put? Oh, I have a little pencil and a blank piece of paper because I'm a writer. I like to write. And then I went to the thrift store and I found like this little tiny blank book, and I put that in the box because I like to read. And so those are just some of the things in my box, and I keep that box tucked away somewhere in a safe place. Now, there's other things you can do with this. Now, this is not that handkerchief, but once a month you want to take that handkerchief out and soak it in that salted water again and let it dry because you want to keep it fresh. And then wrap your doll in it again. And then you can take your doll, you know, if you're feeling down or something, you know, you can talk to your doll, give it a little pep talk, you know, say you're doing a great job, you're you're beautiful, you're prosperous, you know, just, you know, give it a good little pep talk and treat your doll right and it'll treat you right. Now, I know from experience that things you do to a doll, it will happen to the person. It may not be instantaneous, but I can give you one example from my own life. There was a guy I worked with some years ago. He was an idiot. I hated him, didn't like him. And, hold on. I made a little doll of him, something kind of like this one. And I took his picture and I was cutting the head off the picture, and I was sort of trying to cut around the outline of his head, and I was going to sew the picture to the face of his doll. And when I was cutting it, I got about here and I accidentally cut off the ear. Instead of cutting around it, I accidentally cut off the ear. And a couple days later, this was in the wintertime, this dumbass, he lived in a trailer, he was drunk, he was walking out of his trailer, slipped on the steps, cut his ear off. Now, that was not my intention, but it happened. And it was an accident on my part that translated with an accident on his part. So you got to be really careful with these dolls. Sometimes, like I said, it's not instantaneous, but, things you do to the doll will happen to the person. Anyway, that's my video on the spell and working with dolls. And if you want to know more about voodoo dolls and the history of them, check out this book by my friend Denise Alvarado. It's called Voodoo Dolls in Magic and Ritual. This gives you a lot of photos and how to make them and how they were used historically, and a lot of hidden meanings concerning voodoo dolls. For example, if you found a doll that ain't got no feet, and you knew it had feet when you bought it or in the store, what does that mean? And the other book I'm recommending is the Voodoo Doll Spell Book by Denise Alvarado. You can see it right here. And actually, the spell I just shared with you is in this book. My basic protection spell. I see the bookmarker. I'm trying to get to it. And it can be found on page 152. That's Carolina Dean's basic protection spell. Anyway, that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time.